Good morning. My name is Michael Chait. I'm the president of the Greater Atlantic City Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for being here today. Before we begin, I would like to express our appreciation to the organizations that make events like this possible, to our generous sponsors, Ocean First Bank, Atlantic City Electric, TD Bank, Atlantic Care, Town Square Media, and Stockton University. Their continued investment in our community, it exemplifies their investment in our future and the collaborative spirit that drives our region forward. Today, their support enables the meaningful discussion that shapes Atlantic City's trajectory. Can we have a round of applause for our sponsors, please? To our dedicated chamber staff who work tirelessly behind the scenes to bring our community together, thank you for your exceptional efforts in organizing today's events. I'd like to also recognize our board members. A number of our board members are here today. Can you please just put your hand in the air so everybody recognizes our board members that are here? Thank you very much. Our board members are what drive the strategic direction of our organization. It's not easy these days, and we have a board of 47, but the balance and really intentional conversation they have for our region and our organization are incredibly impactful, and we greatly appreciate their spirit of volunteerism. And also for our chamber ambassadors. We have a couple chamber ambassadors here today. We're really elevating the program. If you could show your hands. If you have any questions for our members, for our ambassadors about our membership and what we're doing, grab them. They'll be reaching out to our members for the course of the year. Thank you so much for your commitment and spirit of volunteerism for the organization as well. So today is just more than another gathering. It represents a pivotal moment in Atlantic City's journey toward economic development and renewed prosperity. As I look around the room, I see more than just attendees. I see stakeholders in the city's future, each of you playing a critical role in writing the next chapter of Atlantic City's story. For generations, our city has been synonymous with entertainment and gaming. While these may remain vital pillars of our economy, we stand at the threshold of a broader transformation. The panel before you today represents the innovative thinking and bold vision that's already reshaping our communities and our possibilities. Their collective expertise spans real estate development, community investment, economic development, and the very elements needed to build a resilient and diverse economy. Today, they'll share insights not just about what's possible in Atlantic City, but what's already happening. Guiding our discussion today is someone who exemplifies the kind of dynamic leadership that's driving Atlantic City's renaissance. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce our moderator, Mr. Ken Calemmo, Chief Operating Officer of Cooper Levenson Attorneys at Law. As COO, Ken oversees a flourishing professional services firm that has expanded to include 75 attorneys and over 100 staff members across 5 states. But his deep involvement in shaping our region's future that makes him the perfect choice to lead today's conversation. Mr. Calemmo is actively working to diversify our economy and reimagine our region's attraction. His volunteer roles with the Greater Atlantic City Chamber, Atlantic County Economic Alliance, and the Chelsea Community Development Corporation demonstrate his commitment to improving the quality of life for all residents. Perhaps most telling of his character is his leadership for Let Us Eat, Please, an initiative that provides more than 30,000 meals to Atlantic County students and their families each summer, showing that true community leadership extends far beyond the boardroom. I encourage you, shameless plug, to connect with Ken after today's event to learn more about the upcoming Captain's Table event at Atlantic City Boat Show on February 27th, which supports the Let Us Eat initiative and is another excellent opportunity to network with our region's business leaders. So under Ken's expert guidance, our panelists will explore strategies for meaningful development that serve both business and residents and address the critical challenges of housing and capital access. These conversations aren't just academic. They're about real projects, real investments, and real opportunities that exist right here, right now. As your chamber president, I've witnessed firsthand the determination and creativity of our business community. The excitement surrounding today's discussion reflects a growing confidence in Atlantic City's potential, not just as a tourist destination, but as a vibrant year-round community where businesses thrive and families prosper. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ken Calemmo on our distinguished panel for what promises to be an enlightening and actionable conversation about the future of investment in Atlantic City. Thank you. Mr. Calemmo, the floor is yours.
Michael, thank you very much. Everybody, welcome this morning. We've got some nice weather here, and I'm glad to see everybody came out and to enjoy this panel discussion we have here. We got some great folks here. Very excited about today's panel discussion. And when I look down this to this group here, I mean, we probably have well in excess of 100 years of experience in both real estate, finance, economics, and projects that have, really changed communities. And today's not about building houses, it's really about changing communities. And the individuals you see here have had a profound impact really on the landscape of Atlantic City, and it's something we want to share. It's something they want to share with you. And hopefully, even if you walk out of here with one little tidbit of information or some direction or some thought, we've done our job. We continue to change Atlantic City and our region. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody here on the panel, give you a sense of their backgrounds, and then we'll get into some real good dialogue. So to my left, starting right next to me here, is Pat Fasano, owner of Fasano Properties. Pat is a longtime developer, entrepreneur, who has played a big turnaround in the downtown redevelopment of Asbury Park for many, many years. Now, he's turned his sights here to Atlantic City with making some major investments in what we've come to know as the Orange Loop, and but has spread out and is doing other things in Atlantic City, and is very much dedicated. I mean, he's taken a former nightclub and turned it into a 150-seat vibrant restaurant, Cardinal Bistro, and I'll give you a plug here, Pat. They should be going to Cardinal Bistro because Michael Brennan, who's the chef over there, is really sensational, and you should try to check it out. In addition, to complement that facility, he had the vision of people interaction and enjoying themselves, and put 18,000 square feet of outdoor space, a court, a bar, fire pits, and using shipping containers. So that has been a little cornerstone of and a little piece of the Orange Loop. In addition, he's just opened up, I guess it was early spring, a mixed-use property. It's probably the first mixed-use property in the last 15 years to actually come out of the ground. 8 for-rent, 2-bedroom apartments with commercial space on the first floor. And I know there's more in the pipeline. I was just talking to Pat on the way in here today, and I think he's going to have some interesting announcements. To his left is Mark Callazzo. Mark is a managing partner at RMS Capital, one of many hats he wears. In 2007, he launched Alpha Funding Solutions, which oversaw underwriting and risk management for that company, and the business has deployed nearly $600 million, mostly in short-term and equity capital. Mark has been very influential in the revitalization of Atlantic City, making his mark also in the Orange Loop. He's got Bar 32, Tennessee Tobacco, Cuzzies, and the Beer Hall. He received his BA in economics from Keene University, an MBA with a concentration in finance from Monmouth University. In addition to his business side, he also has done numerous philanthropic pursuits that include the Schultz Hill Foundation, Atlantic City Arts Foundation, the Levenson Institute of Gaming and Hospitality at Stockton, the Greater Atlantic City Chamber, and the Chelsea Economic Development Corporation. Christina Fuentes, not a developer, but is certainly big in development, has been a influential and a real, has lifted up a lot of projects here in and around South Jersey. And Christina Fuentes is the managing director for the community development within the Community Development Division at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. In this role, she's responsible for developing, coordinating, managing initiatives that support community development. Such initiatives involve brownfields, historic preservation, small business services, traditional financing, partnering and partnering with the community development financing institutions and other CDCs in our region. A long, strong background in real estate and community financing. Prior to joining the Economic Development Authority. She was employed with the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority and was the development officer in real estate and economic development, and has assisted numerous projects here in the city. She has earned her bachelor's degree of economics at the University of Kentucky. That's pretty interesting, Kentucky, eh? And to the far left, sitting there quietly, just waiting to chomping at the bit, is Phil Balderston, the CEO of Odin Properties. Phil is actually the founder and CEO of Odin Properties, a diversified regional real estate investment and management firm. The affiliated companies and that he manages control over 10,000 multifamily units, some 200,000 square feet of commercial space in and around the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest in the United States. Prior to joining, or starting Odin, I should say, he was the Director of Acquisition at Tower Investments, responsible for the financing of various development projects and asset management in and around our region. A graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, and with also a degree in real estate finance, urban studies from the Wharton School. So with that, we can all go home.
Thanks, Ken.
So no, I think I did give you just a flavor of some of the expertise you're about to hear from. So what I want to kick off with is, before we get into some specifics, is there's some exciting things that these people have done in Atlantic City and are about to do in Atlantic City. And I want to just give them an opportunity to talk about you can get a deeper flavor for the real physical nature of their business. So Pat, why don't you just kick it off? And I know you got some exciting things also to say.
Sure. So, after discovering Asbury Park in the early 90s, when everybody said I was crazy buying properties downtown for, $5 and $10 a square foot, we invested a lot of time and money in Asbury Park, and I found a lot of similarities between Asbury Park and Atlantic City, the early days in Asbury Park compared to this time. And even though this isn't really the early days in Atlantic City, it's kind of the Renaissance. Because the first bite at the apple was build casinos, but that didn't really help anything. What that kind of did was it created dead zones in between the casinos and didn't ever build a neighborhood. So, we were instrumental in buying up Cookman Avenue in Asbury Park and recreating that as a restaurant district and a shopping district. And what we did there was very successful. And we had a lot of projects that we did along not only the downtown corridor, but also the beachfront. And we made some great partnerships with K. Havanian companies, iStar, and more recently, Roger Mumford Homes. So in our success in Asbury Park, we were selling properties and making capital gains, and we could have paid our taxes, and I could have gone to Costa Rica, but instead I said, let's buy Atlantic City instead, because it's the opportunity zone. So we came into the opportunity zone with our capital gains, and we started buying properties for the purpose of development. We found great people here. Mark was on the block, Evan and Zenith were on the block. So many people interested in investing in the Midtown area in Atlantic City. And then we also put our sights on the inlet because, we couldn't understand, when I got here, I'm like, why are 35 acres of oceanfront property in New Jersey sitting just distressed? Why? It's 35 acres of property here. So we started assembling it, and we needed some partners because it was 35 acres. And, we had some success in finding another opportunity fund in Philadelphia that was happy to come in for a portion of it between Oriental and the Boardwalk. And then we reached to our partners from Asbury Park that we just completed the Baltic and the Aegean with. Very successful projects, and the K. Havanian is a publicly traded company. Everyone knows the name. And 30 years ago, they built the Cove on the other side of the park and the lighthouse. So I said, hey guys, let's come on back. We have a deal in place, a redevelopment plan in place, 125 units, 4 blocks with K. Havanian. We hope to close the first piece, block 79, which is where the funeral parlor is, just past the Hot bagels. No, we're not taking hot bagel. We're leaving that there. I like that spot. In fact, we're not taking any of the homes. We're going to do infill, but we fit 125 units between the lighthouse and the boardwalk. Phase 1 is going to be 38 units on Block 79 across from the miniature golf. I hope that we close that project in next year in 2025. I look forward to getting the approvals. All the CAFRA permits are in, the planning board permits are in, the redevelopment plan is done. I can talk about it now because I've finished my assemblage. I couldn't talk about it for 4 years because we're trying to buy property, and I'd be competing against myself if people knew what we were trying to do. And it's going to be the first, public traded company in 30 years to come back and offer market rate housing. And I'll tell you, you're going to be able to buy the same townhouse in Atlantic City that you could buy in Asbury Park for about half the money. And a lot of that's driven because of land value. But, buy phase 1, because by phase 2 and 3, the prices are going to go up. So, I think that is going to be a big step in encouraging a lot more people to come in. And, in Asbury Park right now, I got Pulte, I got Toll Brothers, I got Sterling Properties, Starfield. Right now, you drive to Asbury Park, across the street from my house, you can see about 500 units going up. And, it was a roller coaster. It wasn't a straight up trajectory. Everybody knows that what happened in the economy. In 2005, we were selling condos in Asbury Park at $500 a foot. Oh my God, this is great. In 2007, I was buying them from the bank at $200 a foot. But right now, I'm selling at $1,000 a foot. I'm selling at $1,000 a foot. Baltic is sold out. Aegean is almost sold out. Rhythm is nearly sold out. So it's happening, and now we have the momentum. We're not going back. It's just going forward. So Atlantic City, I think, can follow a similar trajectory. And, right now, today, you can buy in Atlantic City in great buildings like Mark bought in the Bella. I bought in the Enclave, in the Ocean. And you're paying about $200 a square foot. I have a 31st floor in the Ocean. You're welcome to come see me. I'm ocean front. I have a 500-foot deck. I pay $250,000 for this apartment. The apartment would be $1 million anywhere else. Where do you get this? So it's a great value for your money, and it's a great location, and it's a great future. But the problem that we're all facing is the perception. We have a perception problem in Atlantic City. We don't have a location problem. We got a great location. You can drive from Philadelphia to Atlantic City without hitting one light till you get here. It's a great, you got a train from Phil. So we had New York, you guys have Philadelphia, but New Yorkers are coming here. The people I'm meeting that are buying in Atlantic City, they're coming here. And again, Asbury Park, very similar situation where I had very affluent communities surrounding me, but I was buying properties downtown Asbury Park. I paid $70,000 for the building that my restaurants are in. Capital Line, Lotteria, Bond Street Bar. It's a tax assessment's at $5 million. I can't even appeal it. It's just crazy. I paid $70,000. Brando's restaurant. It was $100,000. But the prices were crazy. Nobody wanted Asbury Park. It's like, whoa, no, it's terrible. But I had Deal, and I had Spring Lake, to my left and right. You have Ventnor, Margate, you have Brigantine to your left and right. And, just go on Zillow and look at those red dots. Put in $500,000 for a single family. There's no red dots on Brigantine. There's a lot of red dots in Atlantic City. And, you put in a minimum price of $1 million, and there's lots of red dots, and no red dots in Atlantic City. So, just use your Zillow apps and realize that why is it like that, and we can change it. And living in Asbury Park, my house is like right, I can see the Stone Pony Summer Stage from where I live. I'm right at the beach. I can walk to a dozen great restaurants in Asbury Park, but in Atlantic City, I can walk to 50 great restaurants. Right. I got better restaurants, I got better entertainment, I got free beaches, I got a great boardwalk. I love it here, and I got both. Yeah. And this is 20% of the value. What am I missing? What am I?
I think you made great points.
Yeah.
Pat, and I think that's what we're here about, is to hear, like, that the changing the perception is a big issue.
Yeah.
Let's continue to move on, because
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people got a lot to say.
Yeah.
So
I was
Mark,
going to say, I'll try to make it quick, because I actually want to hear what Phil and Christina.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I too long? I'm sorry. I'm so excited.
Most of you guys have heard my,
we're here
my little talk. So I wasn't going to do it today, but Elizabeth asked me to. Just everybody in the room, if you live in Atlantic City proper, raise your hand.
it's pretty good.
It's more than most. Ken talked about a perception problem. In my opinion, getting new residents here solves all of our problems. I was just in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago. Michael was there as well. When you walk over the crosswalk from one casino to another, there's more homeless people, and there's more problems going from the crosswalk from one to the other, but you feel safe because there's 100 people walking over the crosswalk with you. When I walk home from Tennessee Avenue to the Bell on Pacific Ave at night, I'm by myself a lot. So I've made the argument, and I'm trying to make the case, and we're working with the chamber, that if we add 10,000 new residents to the city, it changes the clean and safe perception. It helps change the government structure of the city. It helps change adding the missing services that we have here. Everybody talks about a supermarket. I live here, but I have to drive offshore to get my hair cut. I have to drive offshore to get my oil changed. I drive to Brigantine to go to a supermarket. If we have 10,000 new people, that will change all of these things. And just quickly, Tennessee Avenue, which is now the Orange Loop, the whole concept was give people a reason to live here. Ken was actually with me when I first started buying some of the properties, and
Guy threw a whiskey bottle at us.
yeah.
It was empty, though.
Of course.
Yeah, unfortunately it was empty, but it was pretty much the worst street in the
rough.
city. Pat said he bought the Bond Street property for $70,000. I bought the property that's now Bar 32 Chocolate for $24,000, and now I'm paying $2 million for a parking lot. So to show you that values have gone up and things are happening there. After I got started, a realtor introduced Pat and I, and he was excited to come down. And now Phil is going to take the charge and give everybody a place to live in the Orange Loop. I'm going to shut up so the two of them can talk now. But we just need more people to live here, and that's all of our goal now. So
let me kick Christina, and I know, like I said, you got a strong background in real estate finance, so let's see what's going on at EDA and how you can.
Well, there's a lot going on in EDA. I just want to give a little bit of background, though, about the Economic Development Authority. We're a quasi-entity, which means we are a part of the state, but not of the state. So for a long time, EDA really generated their own fees to survive as an authority, but COVID changed a lot of that. So with the federal funding and all the appropriations we were receiving, we have over 100 programs that we're administering. So that's a drastic increase. We have a large staff now, too. But it allows us to also, we received a direct appropriation from fiscal year 23 budget for AC initiatives, which was $30 million. That allowed us to really focus on some of this low-hanging fruit, which we were able to support through big incentives, small grants as well, too, these projects that they're talking about today. But it also just can't be the state that's leading these initiatives. That's my big argument that I really want people to understand, that it has to be also the communities, the local entities, because these projects also equate to jobs. They equate to our community feeling better, feeling safer as well, and small businesses. So it helps attract some of these, why we need a grocery store here, right? Why we need the housing. So the EDA is happy to be a part of this. And, I knew, Mark, God, when you came into Atlantic City, I was at CRDA. It's like, it's been so long. And economic development takes a really long time. People need to understand that. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. But it takes all of us working together. And, the EDA, I live in Atlantic County. My parents opened up these casinos. I know what it is. I used to go see those birds in Golden Nugget when I was a kid. I want to see us survive and thrive here in this community, because all the things that Pat was saying, I think we all see this in this room. there's a lot that can happen for the good, but we all have to make this happen and keep things positive. If we're on Facebook or if we're sharing stories, be positive, don't be negative. Yes, there's some stuff that's out there, and it's just it's the perception problem that we have. We have to contribute better towards that, and we have to help grow this community. And it all happens with us coming together. So I'm going to do the best that I can do from a state economic development authority part of that by doing programs, contributing towards that, making sure people understand about our resources, but it's not just about supporting the developers, it's just supporting our small businesses. I see historically, Atlantic County is not tapping into these grants that we offer. So, my other hat, I oversee business banking, small business services. We have a whole portfolio. I have $250 million that's been appropriated to small businesses through our Main Street Recovery Finance Program. So Governor Murphy has been very generous with how things have been coming into supporting small businesses, because we saw during COVID how many true small businesses are actually in this state. And so we need to make sure that's supported as well too. But Atlantic County needs to come to the table to make sure that they're, tapping into these resources that are available to them. We have lending products. We also have our grants as well too. So I want the county, but also the city, to make sure that they understand the resources that are available. And that's why we're here today, to talk about this, but also partnering with our banks is important as well too, because if I'm coming to these projects with a 50% grant, the bank should also feel confident to support them as well too. We need to kind of contribute towards that. It's very stressful to find the capital, to access this capital, and it's also tied into that perception problem. So that's why, I know it's hard for the banks sometimes to feel confident to do these things, but I think sometimes we just have to have a little bit of a leap in faith to make sure that we're investing into our partners that are taking that leap in faith to bring their dollars here. We have to contribute towards that as well. I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right.
Yep.
Bill?
Wow. Yeah, so just a little bit, you heard some background about me personally, but really, whereas, I think Pat and Mark can do it all, and they've got restaurants and really amazing stuff. Really what we focus on are, we're apartment people, multifamily apartments. We really don't do for sale housing. We really don't do commercial in any meaningful way. We just kind of build and operate apartment buildings. And so, yeah, I think that you heard a lot about Atlantic City that, of course, but imagine what it would be if we were to add thousands of new apartment units. And the prosperity that would create for all Atlantic City residents. I mean, I think that's, in coming here from Philadelphia, that's one of the most important things to me is, okay, yes, there's opportunity for economic development and opportunity for change here, but also as Atlantic City grows and as the tax rateable base grows dramatically, how much prosperity can be created for the people of Atlantic City that are here and live here? Because there is a big contingent of people who live here and are represented by City Council and Atlantic City, the government of Atlantic City and Atlantic County. And what we're really focused on, in addition to building, we've got the building at 1 South New York Avenue that we're converting to apartments, and the old John Brooks YMCA that we're converting to apartments. But as we look out, I would say we look at what Atlantic City can become as a city, and raising the bar for city services, raising the bar for private services, raising the bar for small business, how all of that stuff comes together as the housing's built, as Pat's doing, a bunch of new townhomes and apartments and bars and restaurants, how all of that comes together to kind of create a better Atlantic City. And that's what we see kind of 10, 20 years out. So we've been landlords here for the last 8 years or so, managing apartments. And, as we look out, we believe that a conjunction of what you heard about the state of New Jersey and their commitment to Atlantic City, it's really extraordinary. And we recognized quickly how extraordinary that commitment was and how that can take Atlantic City and kind of raise the bar for prosperity for everybody. And as we look out, in getting these projects finished, increasing the population and supporting small business, that's the improvement that we see over the next 10 years. The other thing that Christina said I think is really important is, and I know there are some bankers in the room here, but in addition to, I would say, taking measured risk, it's also going to need to be flexible. Bankers are going to really need to be flexible, and the city, I think of, since we've been working on our development projects, has understood the necessity for certainty. And to the extent that that's happening in our communities, we've got to support the city in its quest to be open for business and encouraging certainty to folks who are going to invest here, because investors are always looking for some level of certainty, and that is also what makes a lot of these projects investable from a banking perspective. And in order for that to happen, in order for anything to happen, it's got to work for the banks. So for all of you bankers who are here, I ask you to really take a hard look at those projects that you're seeing in Atlantic City and think about how you can be flexible to make them work, because of course we have a lot going for us here in terms of economic development incentives. It is a federal opportunity zone, as Pat said. We're in the Community Reinvestment Act area, and so there's a lot of positives, but it's going to require flexibility, and it's going to require commitment from the banking community, and we're doing everything we can to bring additional banking institutions here as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the banks here, because I look around at a lot of a variety of banks here that we have in the audience today. And prior to starting the program today, Jeff Rapecki was just telling me he and a bunch of his executives were given a tour by one of our CDCs, Elizabeth here, around town, and then he was shocked. I hope I'm stating it correctly. They were just really appreciative of what really is going on and the opportunity that exists. So, bankers, if you want a tour, we'll get you a tour. So, there's that opportunity. But Phil, let me just throw this back to you. You're building, I don't know, a lot of opportunity in apartments. Pat, you're talking about doing 125 or so. Mark, also, what demographic are you going after, and how are you going to get them here?
Sure. I mean, so they're already here. They work here. They work across the street. And in our experience in Philadelphia, we're Philadelphia-based developers, and in our experience, I mean, folks, especially younger folks, they don't want necessarily to live 30, 45 minutes away, or an hour 15 away if they're in Philadelphia. They don't want to live there. They want to live close. And so, there's a complicated formula in order to creating a really attractive neighborhood that people want to live in. Our part of that formula is to create housing that people want to live in. And so we're firm believers that if we build housing that people want to live in, that's really attractive, design forward, affordable, people will want to live across the street from where they work. Part of what convinced us that this was possible is our existing property in Atlantic City. Atlantic City is a place where, as you said, there hasn't been meaningful construction here in 50 years. And so, as a result, you have very little apartment vacancy. And we believe there's a huge unmet demand. And there's certain things that have to happen in order to make that development feasible, and those things are generally happening now. And so we view it as a terrific opportunity to house those folks. Again, we talk to people at Atlantic Care. We've got the county that has an office building right across the street, and very few of those folks live in Atlantic City. Part of the reason is because the actual physical product isn't there for rent. they're not ready maybe to make a substantial commitment to purchase something, and they're just looking for something in the interim. They just took the job, they're like, hey, we're going to work here for a year or two and see what happens. We're not ready to make and we may not have the ability to make a huge financial commitment, but we want to live across the street, and we want something that's really cool. And so that's what we're going to build.
Nice. You want to take a shot at this, Mark?
Sure.
How do you get your 10,000 people? Who are your 10,000 people?
Well, it's like what Phil said. There's 30,000 people that work in the casinos, and most of them get in their car and drive offshore. So if we were having a conversation, how do we get 10,000 new residents in Peoria, Illinois, the first part of the discussion would be where are they going to work. But the jobs are here, the people are here. Let's just get them to stay here. And there was more people when I said who lives here when I raised their hand earlier, but it still could be a lot higher. And that's the simple thing. It's not complicated. And to Phil's point, there is no good housing stock here. The building I live in is full. The Ocean Club is full. I'm sure where Pat lives is full. And I'm sure when they're done on 1 South New York, the absorption is going to be really quick. So build it, make it nice, make it priced right, and they will come.
But we've also got to create a really dynamic community. And so you've got, obviously, you heard Christina talk about small business. That's incredibly important. As people walk down the street, there's stores that are open. That's incredibly important. And there's also got to be public safety. It absolutely has to happen. You've got to have a place where people are, they feel safe living there. And they really want to live there. It's dynamic. And so all of those things come together. And I think, when you look at the folks in Atlantic City who are working on each one of those things, you've got a lot of great people, and I could just continue to meet them. I met some of them this morning. You've got a lot of great people that are all working towards that goal. And so, that's exciting for us, and we're certainly ready to invest our capital and our time here.
Yeah, Pat, similarly, I'm going to change up things a little bit with you, because you were quoted in an article some time ago about development here in Atlantic City, and you used the term walkable town, a walkable place. And I think it feeds into exactly what you're saying. Go down that road a little bit for us. Talk about walkable town and how that really changes the community and really can impact ultimately economics.
Yeah, so I mean, again, I keep relating back to how did we turn around Asbury Park, and it's very similar to what Phil and Mark were just talking about, is the safety. Like Mark said, I walk alone to the Bella, and I know that feeling. And in Asbury Park, it was the same way. People said, oh, it's not safe. And how did we create safety? Well, there's a few things we did. Number one is lighting. Lighting is very important. Well-lit streets. Number two, sidewalks. Walk around the inlet, walk around town, cracked sidewalks, broken glass, litter, garbage. Has to be cleaned up. CRDA is in their little trucks cleaning up in the tourism district, but more has to be done. The third thing that we did was PR. iStar Financial hired a public relations company. When I first started, I had Lisa Johnson doing publicity. I was in the paper all the time, just trying to build some momentum. So public relations. But the most important aspect is safety, and I think it all goes back to safety. You have to feel safe. You need a police presence. You need enforcement. You can't have people, asking you. You can't walk down the street with people hitting you up, asking you for money, and sleeping in the doorways and have nowhere to go. I'm not really understanding the rescue mission and how that works, because I've actually stopped and talked to homeless people and say, why are you sleeping here? Why are you not at the mission? And I'll talk to them and I'll ask them these questions. Not that I'm in that business, but I'm curious, like, why are you sleeping behind my building and not at the rescue mission? Oh, well, you're only allowed to stay there for so many days, and then you're banned for 30 days, but I can go there for lunch. I said, I don't understand the rules, but we can't have them on the street and sleeping in doorways and, you know, have nowhere to use a bathroom and nowhere to wash and nowhere to go, it's a problem, and that prevents the walkability. But, you know, we needed a downtown walkable area, and I think that's what Mark and I are focused on in the Orange Loop, is to create like that Cookman Avenue corridor, that 3-4 block area that you can safely walk from building to building and feel safe and not feel threatened. And not be robbed or something, you know? I mean, this is the most important thing, is having the police really be able to enforce and clean. And look, you don't want to be heartless. We want to help people, but at the same time, the services have to be put in a place that makes sense. It's, you know, the services shouldn't be in the tourism district. The services should be on the island somewhere safe that they can access, and they can get their meals and they can get counseling, because people need counseling, people need help, and, you know, we don't need that negative perception in the city, and I think that's where we really have to start, just cleaning up the streets, cleaning up the blocks, and it doesn't take a lot of money. It just takes a lot of effort, is what it takes, honestly, you know. So. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll just tell you one little thing.
I mean, it is. I mean, again.
I'll tell you one little thing that iStar did that was so inexpensive. And if you go down New York Avenue, you'll see I copied the same exact thing that iStar did. So they, you know, iStar took over Asbury Partners when it failed after the recession, and they looked at the landscape of Asbury Park, which is similar to the size and scale of the inlet, and they had all these vacant lots with bad sidewalks. And they put in sidewalks, and they put if you go to Asbury Park, you see seagrass and these little ropes around the lots, and they put surfboards on the corners, marking the corners that were going to be developed. And it really made it look like so much better. It's like it was a very small lift. The CRDA could actually do this with, you know, the money that they spend on, you know, giving it for beach concerts and things like whatever. They have some money they could put up, you know, some seagrass, but go down New York Avenue and you'll see it's landscaped. I mean, our block from the 7-Eleven to the Irish pub is landscaped. There's seagrass, there's ropes, I mean, it looks nice. You walk through the court at, you know, the container court, there's grass. It looks nice, you know, and there's paved parking lots without potholes, and the sidewalks are new. And there's new buildings, and it's one block, but that's how it starts. And then it's Tennessee Avenue, and then it's then it's Kentucky Avenue, and it just expands.
Yeah.
You have to have a starting point, and it expands out from there.
I guess the technical term is curb appeal.
Curb appeal.
So there you go. So, hey, Christina, you've probably you've been involved in any number of studies, reports. I mean, you've probably read. It probably have shelved a lot of those reports, and there's probably a lot of them, you know, filling up libraries here in Atlantic City. I just get your thoughts about what over the time, how things have progressed, and, you know, since you've been, you know, involved in the city, and where do you think it's going, and some of the thoughts these guys just threw out here a second.
Well, I think the Orange Loop is a prime example of it. When Elizabeth was working in City Hall, she did a study on the Orange Loop. She brought a bunch of, I think it was University of Penn graduates that were working on their masters, and they focused on a study on how the Orange Loop could actually become something here. And I think for some of us, like, you know, that was a true eye-opening experience, that you kind of start with low-hanging fruit and grow from there. Orange Loop is literally 3 streets, but I've approved 5 projects in the last 6 months in that. So I know it's like approval now, but you will see this. And so you kind of have to start just thinking in the fact of, like, drive down Tennessee or New York, you're going to start seeing construction. Like, I think Tennessee looks really good when you walk there at night. I do that myself. I don't feel unsafe in any way. But I think the lighting is amazing now too. I've noticed a huge drastic difference, but the plans that we do, I get frustrated with that, because plans are great, but where's the implementation of the plans? And so this was a great example of how we actually did that. And It was a coordination, though, of a lot of different efforts. And it also has to be the city, the county, and the state. We all have to work together to make this happen. And also from locals to non-locals, too. You know, even though I live in Galloway, I still want to see the city thrive. I want to be able to have, you know, come in here. I come in the summertime, I walk the boardwalk. My husband works at Hard Rock. Like, you know, there's a lot of, my kids come here. I want them to feel safe as well. And as I work on projects, they see it. And, you know, it's nice to see that. And I think they feel the same kind of like investment. They're bringing their actual dollars here. That should say a lot to this room. And I think we should all try to want to support that. But, you know, as far as plans, that's the one thing that really sticks out in my head as far as like a true success. I've seen a bunch of other things, you know, but I think there's a history here of if we do this one big thing, oh, this will make it great. That's not the way you look at economic development. There's not one thing that's going to make all of Atlantic City great. It just doesn't work like that. But we all have to kind of do this low-hanging fruit to pick and choose. I mean, the fact that Odin Properties is here from Philly, that's a huge sign. We are bringing in bigger developers, right? The fact that Pat came, you know, just from working with Mark, these are big signs that I know may not feel like a lot, but it is a lot. And I really have to call out Wendy, because I'm looking at you in the audience. And Fulton Bank has been a great partner for some of these projects. And so I really want to say, as far as like working with the banks, Fulton Bank, and just working with the CDCs as well too. So I do appreciate your support and everything you've done.
Yeah, no, great. Now you mentioned dollars. So, I mean, the reason we have chambers of commerce and networking is to kind of better our standing and make money, right? Okay, that's an important thing. So everybody can't be a developer. If it was an easy job, everybody would be doing it, right? But that's not the case. So what do you think the opportunities exist for people in this room, not only just to get better restaurants and some housing, but like what opportunities exist for, you know, everybody from the banks to the mom and pop shop, the small, you know, what do we need more immediately that would change things? Mark, why don't you take a shot at that?
I mean, I think the development project funding that EDA does gets a lot of the headlines, but there is a lot of funding for small businesses, and I'd probably better let Christina to talk about. There's, you know, build out money and e-commerce money, and why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a small business lease grant that basically supports if you're going into new space or expanding your space. We give you a grant at approval to allow you to essentially get that space open and operating, because that's the most stressful time. You're not actually operating because you're waiting on maybe a CEO. You're paying rent, you're paying utilities, you're paying all these things, but you can't pull in any dollars. So this grant really helps support that. It focuses on first floor space though, because we were trying to really improve our main streets. As we saw during COVID, these programs were created back, you know, years ago because of COVID. It is COVID funding from the governor through Main Street Recovery Finance Program. So we also want to make sure that our main streets stay occupied. That's the biggest thing, right? Because when you have businesses that are occupied, fulfilling those streets, it helps generate kind of the walkable towns we're talking about. So you can tap into that, but also the cost to improve that space, you can tap into a small business improvement grant where we reimburse those expenses up to $50,000. The blessing of this, they are exempt from prevailing wage. So as a small business owner, you know, you can make these improvements, but also it supports your furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So even if you are just buying basic equipment that you had to do, or, you know, during COVID, a lot of people had to, you know, adjust their operations to operate. So that's kind of off. People don't have to do that anymore, but they still have to make adjustments if they want to upgrade their equipment. We do a 2-year look back. So anything you would have purchased essentially 2 years ago, you can get reimbursed for 50% up to $50,000. You can stack those as well too. So that's the blessing of the state funding. And then our e-commerce technical assistance program allows anybody who has space, because having space in New Jersey is very expensive. So if you're a retailer, which is essentially somebody walks in off the street into your store, very broad definition. We also allow barbershops, personal care, so like spas, salons, everything like that. We have 7 consultants that help you get online so you can sell those products. So let's just say nail salon, right? there's a lot of Korean nail salons that actually want to actually sell skincare products. So they have tapped into this program to be able to do that. So it helps like a small business to kind of take a different approach on how they're generating their revenue, but tapping into their customers as well too. So it allows, because we all saw during COVID, any restaurant that had a website with the ability to order online, they were the ones that were thriving, because we were all kind of like, when we were stuck in our houses and, we were looking for places to order from. And this allowed those small businesses to stay open, thrive, and, really succeed. So this program, we expanded from COVID to allow this to happen. And it's really been doing well. A lot of these businesses are seeing increase in sales. But the blessing of this is you don't have to apply to it. You just reach out. The consultant does all the work for you. They take the pictures, they put you online. You do have to have a point of sale system, to make sure everything's going to be connected on the back end, but they show you how to actually use this product. And you don't have to feel the stress of applying for something. They get paid through us, but they provide the services to the small business. And so again, we have to be mindful of like small business owners are doing everything. They don't have CFOs, they don't have lawyers typically, like they're the ones doing everything. They're HR, they're accountant. And so they'll run their business during the day and then also work at night trying to tap into things. And so that's why we're always trying to leverage them up, because I'm a daughter of a small business owner. I know exactly what it feels like to have those stresses. Typically they're doing side jobs and also running a business as well, because they need that steady income coming in. So we want to make sure these resources are tapped into, but that's also why when you go to your favorite pizza shop on a regular basis or get your hair done, talk to your hairdresser and say, hey, do you know about this? Like, there's something you can tap into, and like you can get a grant for this. And that's the reason we really want to start spreading the word, because I want to be able to see Atlantic County. I want to see us thrive and be able to, keep our small businesses open, because it's not going to happen unless we support them. So we need to make sure, even when Governor Murphy is not in office and the next governor comes in, this is something that needs to exist. We didn't have resources like this before to support small businesses. We had big tax credit deals that we could support, but small businesses could only tap into loans, which we were able to, support them with, but we need to make sure that they actually have the resources to grow and thrive and survive in this state.
We had an
We're going to have question and answers right at the end.
We had an event with prospective tenants for the container park, and we had someone from EDA to talk about all of those programs. We had someone from Atlantic County Improvement Authority to talk about their program, someone from SBA, we had people from Stockton. So if you're a small business owner or a prospective small business owner, there are a lot of resources out there for you. And we need all these small businesses to build that walkable environment to make people want to live here. So it all ties in together. But the stars really are aligning with all of the grants and funding and things like that are available right now, from the small, 20% of your rent to all the way up to hopefully some Aspire changes that can bring bigger deals here. So,
Phil, I think you wanted to say something.
I mean, I'm coming from Philadelphia, where the 10-year tax abatement was, brought into the law, and it spurned a humongous building boom that completely changed the face of the city. And it made deals that we did in the Kensington neighborhood that is very, very challenged in Philadelphia. It made that possible. And kind of what I'm hearing today and what's available is some of the most powerful economic incentives that I've heard. And we're in 13 states. And so one of the most powerful economic incentives that I've heard in 20 years of doing business. And I just hope that people really understand how powerful that is. I mean, if you've got a business that's located in Central Jersey or in New York or in Philadelphia, it would make a lot of financial sense for you to move that business to Atlantic City, even if you're selling your products online. It would make sense for you to locate here. And so part of what the chamber and part of the reason why we're here is to make sure that people understand that. And it's pretty unbelievable.
Okay, well, what we're going to do is we are going to take, you guys okay with questions? A couple of questions at some point?
Sure.
Let me, before we do
Only
that,
after softballs. No, I think hard throwing.
Looks like a softball crowd.
well, before we go to that, really quickly, we're gonna like just a quick, 30 seconds. I'd just like to get from each of you, what is your, not what you see, but what is your hope for Atlantic City? Pat?
Home ownership to me, I mean, that's what really turns it around, home ownership. That's why we're working with the Havanian companies that we have a relationship with, because home ownership changes everything. You pick up the litter, you call the police, you take care of your lawn, and there's a lot of nice neighborhoods in Atlantic City. I drive around from, Chelsea to the Basin. There's a lot of nice neighborhoods.
Oh, totally.
And then in between, it's a little, it needs a little help.
Yeah, Mark?
But,
10,000 new residents by 2030.
there you go. It's ambitious.
I'm agnostic whether they're homeowners or renters, but that's the number.
Yeah. Christina?
My hope is just to continue this momentum. I've seen in the past, several years, it's finally happening, and I feel very proud to finally be a part of this and to see it. And I really hope these, everything pans out, the projects happen, we can have some really nice ribbon cuttings, and to start really truly showing how this can be done if people just have the patience and confidence to contribute what is necessary.
Improved quality of life for the Atlantic City residents. You heard talk about a big supermarket. That's a really, really big one. If that happens over the next 5 to 10 years, a lot of additional changes will happen, and that would be success for me.
Yeah, great. All right, we're going to open it up a little bit. Ma'am, I think you had a question over here, Michael.
Yeah, I got a mic for her. I just want to give you the mic so it's recorded. Here you go, miss. You're welcome.
Thank you. My name is Robin Whitfield, and I am a small business here in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I'm a CEO of the Healing House Life Center Church. We're a nonprofit corporation. I liked everything I heard about the programs. That's the Orange Loop. I'm so grateful for that coming to our community. The brother here from that great ideas. I'm telling you, the inlet project that's going on, that's being built down at the inlet. It's a wonderful idea. I do live here. We have our headquarters here in Atlantic City, our small business, and we're having our new location in Egg Harbor Township at the Regis that will be opening soon on February the 5th. Also, the bagel place that he mentioned down there, we just had a closeout on a hot event down there. We do events now. We give back to our community as a nonprofit. We also do scholarships. Tony Baloney's been down there for quite some time. I love to see that development growing. I also like to see that we're going to have more housing ownership, and that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested also in public safety, where you're saying that you can now go out and be safe in your community, because I do travel to other places, and I'm looking for investment personally, not for myself, not just for the business, for myself as well, living here all these years. So, real estate is very important, saying, hey, as a resident and a business owner, I want to live in nice places. I love Atlantic City. I love where I live at. And I like being able to come out. See, the thing is flipped now. Now this is the location. Even though this business started in Atlanta, this is the location now. It's the headquarters. And so I live at the headquarters where my business at, and I want to live in a safe community. So I like that thing where I can go out in the middle of the night. I can walk to the locations, the restaurants, and still be safe. I can't, and I'm grateful that he's had me online, because I can't do that in Atlanta. If I want to buy property and I move to Atlanta, I'm going to tell you now, I need to be able to get up and walk safe, so I don't go out at night. And I want them to hear that. I don't go out at night. But directed to what you're saying, that the EDA, excuse me, ma'am, what did you say? You're what, New Jersey, EDA or EDC?
EDA.
EDA. So you're the president of the EDA, or you have an
No, I'm
office
not.
here in Atlantic City?
No, my CEO is appointed. I am not an appointed employee.
So you're
Christina's the
because
president.
all those grants that you asked mentioned, I know nothing about. How do we find out that information? Now I do know Elizabeth because I'll go to some of her meetings, but I'm hearing the same thing out of your mouth that I say. And I didn't get that information about none of our grants. And this is local. You know, we're a small business, so we need to know that. There can't be selective individuals and selective things going on in the community. We need to get that information so we can use it as small businesses. So that's why I'm standing up. I want to be able.
Hey, Christina, why don't you give Christina a chance to answer where you can get the information?
There you go.
The easiest way to do is go to NJEDA.com. You click on Small Business Services and Financing. All those products I just mentioned, plus more, all our lending products are there too. And so when I say, the reason I push you to the website is because there is an abundance of information. We put all our checklists, sample applications, our previous recorded sessions on how to do the applications there. Since COVID, yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on here. We got a question in the back there?
Hey, good morning. My name's John Mazzery. I'm a commercial real estate broker, small business owner, and proudly a resident of Atlantic City. I moved here. I grew up in Ocean City and Seattle. Went to school out of state, transferred to Stockton, specifically when they opened the campus here, because I'm always been bullish and very excited to be in Atlantic City. So I have a couple questions. Talking about people who live, work, and play in Atlantic City. We got to live, we're working on the live. We have plenty of play. What are we doing to bring in different employers, more regional factors to bring people in from other areas, not just from Egg Harbor Township, not just from the mainland? What are we doing to bring people in from other areas?
Good question. We didn't get to talk about jobs. Anybody want to take a shot at it?
Well, I think having this vibrant community will attract more employers. A few years ago, there was a bank that was looking to relocate to the area, and Ken and I spent a lot of time trying to get them to do that. And I think part of their reasons they went to another city were lack of housing, lack of entertainment, and lack of potential employees. So if we keep doing what we're doing, that will be kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy on the new employers coming to the area.
I want to go ahead. Go.
Real quick, I would agree with what Mark said, but I think also they're here. Given the size of the city, you've got a lot of great employers that are here. Stockton's made a humongous investment here. They're here. Atlantic Care has made a humongous investment here and is working on, a ton of additional things for the community. They're really here. We view it as our job to, create the housing and create the environment that makes those folks that are already working here really excited. So, if there are any residential realtors in the room, what I would recommend is prospecting those folks that work at those institutions and say, hey, you guys want to live in Chelsea? Here's the available housing stock. This is really great. Let's go come take a look at it and see what all the great things that are going on in Chelsea.
So from the state perspective, there are tax credit programs that are offered. So before we had the GROW program, and we also have Emerge. But the reality of this is employers are not going to pull their employees into a headquarters and relocate them unless those employees feel safe, have places to live, and want to be in this community. So it kind of goes, it's a catch-22. It goes hand in hand. So the city needs to also show they're on the uptick. They have the housing stock. They have, it's a generational thing where these, they want an experience. They want to feel like, they can have a walkable town, pop around, do the things that they want to do. But the employers that want to pull their employees into like a city like Atlantic City have to make sure they're not going to lose half of their staff by making that decision. So it kind of goes hand in hand with that. And, any type of job-based tax credit, that is the biggest thing. They're called government restricted municipalities under the Economic Recovery Act. You have Trenton, Atlantic City, and Paterson. And that is the challenge with the three cities, right? Like, well, as we've been doing this for many of years and offering these tax credits, it's, you know, the major corporations have to run that risk and they have to outweigh, you know, is this move worth losing their employees? And most of the time it's not, because they don't want to lose their employees. And I think that was something you even talked about years ago when you had Alpha and you were thinking about relocating your headquarters down here in Atlantic
City.
City.
They quit.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, at that time we had the grow incentive. So I don't think it's just about, you know, you have to be mindful when you're talking about bringing employers here. Do they have the right tools necessary to keep their employees, right? And that's where this is a community-based decision of raising up this city to be able to then attract those major employers. I mean, that was part of what South Jersey, you know, Gas did and how they did it in partnership with Stockton. So it kind of goes hand in hand, though. It's not just an easy fix.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody from Atlantic here. I saw Matt. Oh, okay. I mean, is Matt here or somebody here? Okay, well, I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But anyway, I mean, Atlantic Care, as you know, has committed to a major expansion. I mean, they're going to have many, many employees coming into this region. Atlantic City kind of has become a hub for them. And I think, you know, it still goes back to the housing. Where are you going to put these people and make them feel comfortable? So I think, you know, it's happening. That is starting to happen. We have, I see John Schleifer back there from the FAA Technical Center. What do we have, 6,000 people out there, John? And
7,500 is the trickle-out effect.
yeah, so I mean, and
We
they're
have apartments for you.
high-paying. What's that?
We have apartments for you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the point. And if you don't follow it, start following it. Aviation could be as big as pharmaceuticals in New Jersey if we really put our minds to it. So there's that opportunity there. So, is anybody other questions or?
Yeah, we had a couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
2 more questions.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here and sharing your information. Christina, your answer to that last question kind of was what I was going to ask, whether you want to call it catch-22 or chicken or the egg. That's the problem that I'm very curious to hear you answer about. If the streets are paved, if I feel safe, if there's this, if there's that, I'll come. And, well, if we get 10,000 people, we'll have those things. How do you get them all at the same time? Because the grocery stores won't want to build unless there's the people and it's safe, and the people won't want to come unless there's the grocery stores. How do you solve it all? Who else are you working with to get those parts of it solved? Because you guys are doing a great job bringing the places to live, but how do you do the rest? Thank you.
I'll answer first just because I get it. And so it doesn't happen all at the same time. That's the reality of it. So we are working on the supermarket. We are working on a lot of different initiatives but it just takes a little bit of time to get it all done. But I do think kind of this momentum is exactly what we need to kind of help start attracting some of those major developers, because it won't be all at the same time. That's just the reality of it. And I have to, you know, be real with the way this is. This is why economic development takes a long time. Plus, you're going to have change of administrations from the local level to the state level as well, too, which some may look at it a priority and some may not look at it a priority. Right now, I can only focus and get everything that I can possibly get done within the next, 14 months we have left of Governor Murphy's administration. And then, you know, hopefully, whoever the next governor is, we can keep the momentum going. But it's very important for, I think, everybody to realize this is why we need to advocate and be strong about what we actually need here on the local level, and not let North Jersey kind of dictate what we're getting, but South Jersey needs to speak up and show that, you know? And then go ahead, Phil, sorry.
Sure, no, I would just add that every journey begins with a single step. It's a long journey, and there's lots and lots and lots of steps, but a really important first step are, you know, these folks that have restaurants that they've opened and bars they've opened and places they've opened that are attractive to folks that live in that area. And so then, you know, we're going to build a lot of additional housing, and then there's going to be, you know, more bars and small businesses that open. Then other folks are going to build more housing. And so it's just kind of a trickle effect. It doesn't happen all at once. It really isn't a chicken and the egg. It really is just kind of putting one foot in front of the other and just continuing until you get there. You know, I was telling some folks about the Northern Liberties neighborhood in Philadelphia, which is where I first, you know, started, you know, 23 years ago. And at the time, there was really nothing there. And that's how we did it. It took, you know, 16, 17 years, but we really just put one foot in front of the other. We built a small mixed-use, complex that had 20 units and a bunch of small retail spaces, and then we kept adding and adding and adding, and eventually, the entire community really changed dramatically.
Question up front here.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Lisa Santiago. I'm an AVP with Atlanticare, and I am a native of Atlantic City, as is my husband. So I am very invested in everything you're saying here. I'd love to be able to move back to Atlantic City, so I would want to talk to you. But I don't have school-age children. My children are grown. But thinking if I was a young professional trying to move back to this area, to me, the school system is a major piece of this to move companies back here to bring young professionals. Are we working at all with government here regarding school systems, charter schools, things like that, to be able to allow young professionals to be able to come back here and say, I want to, I'd start a family here. I feel safe bringing my kids here.
Who wants to take that curveball?
I asked for a softball. I'll say that I keep beating the drum of 10,000 new residents. So personally, I'm not working on fixing the school system, but when you add new residents, and our early residents are not going to be people with school-age children. They're going to be, like myself, I moved here full-time 6 years ago, and my kids are out of college or preschool age parents. So those are going to be the early people. But when you have these new residents, they get involved in the school board, they get involved in local government, they get involved in community associations, and that's how things are going to change.
I think you said, you were talking about moving your headquarters here and some of your employees that will be equipped. But if they're individuals with school-age children, knowing that they have an opportunity here.
Well, they weren't, and I'll give a quick story because it actually ties in Asbury to Atlantic City, and this was before I had met Pat. Right when I was dreaming of kind of doing some development on Tennessee Avenue. And most of the people in my company are in their 20s and early 30s. None of them had children. And after I started buying on Tennessee Avenue, but before I started really doing anything and announcing anything, I came to the office one day and I said, hey, I'm going to move our office to Atlantic City. And they're like, great, well, we're going to go look for a new job. And I said, well, why? And they said, Atlantic City, and my office is in Red Bank, by the way, so it's very close to Asbury. And they said, let us take you to Asbury one night. And actually, they took me to Bond Street at one of the places. Right. And they said, this is where we start our night. And what do you have, the $5 shot?
Yeah, baby, we got it.
and they said, this is where I get my hair cut, and this is where I get my coffee in the morning, and this is where the liquor store I go to. And
thank you.
That really kind of helped shape what my plan was for Tennessee Avenue. That's now the Orange Loop. So that's, it's come full circle, and then, Pat's now here from Asbury. So
Get a $5 shot.
I'm going to add one thing. I'll try to be brief, Ken. I know I talk too much. But
No, Pat, go ahead.
I'm going to tell you, I think another phenomena that I'm going to throw a curveball is climate change. Oh, climate change, yeah, we're building 14 feet above sea level now. But quite a number of people are telling me they're selling their places in Florida to move back to New Jersey. That's how you get your 10,000 people. That's how you make the restaurants thrive, because it's my age group that you want to attract here, the baby boomers. We have the money. Our children are adults. We don't have children. And we don't want to maintain a single family house. We want to live in a condominium with a swimming pool. And I've got a beautiful kitchen. I haven't lit my oven once. I eat at the Palm, I eat at Alberti, I'm a Girasol, I'm a Cardinal. So, I mean, we have disposable income. We're going to shop at the outlets. We're going to eat in the restaurants. We're going to go to the shows. And we don't need a school. And there's a lot more than 10,000 of us.
Yeah, no,
a lot more than 10,000.
Yeah, go
so
after.
Just keep the people in New Jersey.
Yeah.
They're priced out of Asbury Park. They're priced out of Margate. But we can create market rate housing here, and we can get a big group of my people. Yeah, the baby boomers. Yeah, Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd. That was us. Come on. Rolling
Bert?
Stones.
So good morning. I'm Bert Lopez with Atlanta City Electric. And Pat, you indicated the importance of lighting. So we've been working very diligently with CRDA as well as the city on some of the lighting issues.
Thank you.
By the way, I just want to introduce Shayla Salter. She's new to my team, and she's covering Atlanta City and Atlanta County. My question is very brief. We have a lot of out-of-town property owners who just are not, maintaining their properties, and I don't want to use the term slum lords, but essentially, it is a problem here in the city. Any perspective on how we deal with those?
I mean, I'd like to thank the CRDA for closing Foxwood Manor and the boarding houses that they closed. I know they got a lot of heat from it, but it was a good first step. These hotels like we have on St. James that are not really hotels, they're boarding houses, don't attract the right demographic, and it's transient people. I think Dale has been doing a good job with code enforcement. I received a call earlier today that I had some litter on one of my properties. I informed them as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go clean that litter up. So they're out driving around and enforcing things now. I think code enforcement is a lot tougher now than it was in the past. That's my own personal experience. And I think CRDA should be commended for closing down Foxwood Manor and a few of the other ones. I think it's an improvement, but now we need to see these properties that are boarded up, not boarded up, because that becomes the second problem. So we either have to take them down or redevelop them with Christina's help and other developers. So that's what I can add.
Last one. So you want to say something?
No, I'm glad you're talking to Gary. I wanted to introduce Gary.
Sometimes he talks too much.
I'm glad we got over here Gary Musich, now the new CEO of Meet AC. So, first of all, welcome
Visit
to
Atlantic City.
What? Visit Atlantic City?
Now it's visit.
Meet AC?
Right. That's what
A
we do. We
convention
want
authority,
you to
whatever the hell
visit
it is.
Atlantic City.
Okay, well, but
So,
okay.
thank you. So, my question to you is I want to go to the perception thing, right? So, if you look, Visit Atlantic City is responsible for meetings, trade shows, convention development. That's what we do. That's been our narrow lane. If you look in a year and a half, Mark and I were talking about this earlier, the most important thing in that decision process is clean and safe and who's doing business with you in town. That's how businesses are making decisions. That's all B2B stuff. That's all the stuff we do. We only do a couple of consumer shows a year, boat show and beer fest, things like that. So those are the two most important things. We've been successful in changing perception by simply changing the conversation, but what you guys are doing needs to be part of our discussion. Like, I don't know half of the projects you're doing. We're your voice, and now we're consolidating messaging, which we haven't done in this city, to talk about branding, messaging, what Atlantic City is, and how we go forward and talk about that to all tourism. And that's all going to, in the process of being consolidated. We can help, and we need to talk about your projects in detail. I've never heard of some of these things. I talked to Mark a little bit because we drive business there, but we have to have the same message, all of us. We still work in silos here in this town. We're still talking about some of the same stuff, and that's what has to change. And I always tell the Detroit story because I looked at them, and I was there recently for a conference, and if you walk around Detroit and you look at what they've done, everybody's talking about it and everybody's proud of it because they're all on the same message. So I think if we all start doing this together and all start having the same conversation, that means we all have to sit down and talk about how our team can help promote what you're doing. And I think as we all do that, then that becomes viral. Then this perception starts to change. Although we've lost some conventions in this town, some big stuff that is unfortunate, and it's for perception and clean and safe feeling. We've lost a few things, but the long term is up significantly in people looking at this city. And while I'm sitting here, I got a text on a huge sorority that just selected Atlantic City that's going to use 13,000 rooms. And we had American Bus Association just commit to this city for 2032 that'll use 10,000 rooms. Those are the stories that need to be combined with what you guys are doing, and as we all talk about this messaging going forward, it just creates positive momentum. For my business, what you do as an investor says everything. because that means people are interested in the destination. So I'd love to get together with you guys. I've offered to host all of you guys for a meeting at the convention center to talk about how we can have a common message going out. I think it's really important for the future.
There's just one really simple thing that I'd like to add to that, which is, and you said viral. And I think if the last presidential election taught me anything, it's that really getting that message online as much as humanly possible in a viral way is going to create a humongous impact. And so what I would urge you to do is just take some of the team to the establishments that are open here and to some of the great events that are happening in Atlantic City. The tree lighting, that just happened in Chelsea, where there was hundreds of people there. I'd love to see that all over the internet, on TikTok, even though I don't have a TikTok account. Yeah. But a lot of people do, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, every single place that it can be. And I think you'd be amazed how much that alone, with very little spend and very little time, can change Atlantic City and how it's viewed.
And just to touch on that, one last piece, that's why you consolidate messaging. Because if you look at the meeting and business development side, you have all that. You have a 35% increase in the future business. You don't have it in general discussion because it's not consolidated. And that's that's what I mean by consolidation.
It may come from TikTok.
Right.
It's still open.
Yep.
Well, we don't want to, I know all your employers are wondering where the hell you are. So we want to get you guys up. But I really want to thank, this was an amazing panel. I hope we accomplished what we tried to do. I hope you walk out of here, a lot going on in your head right now. And so, Phil, thank you. Christina, thank you. Mark, thank you. Pat, thank you so much. Chamber of Commerce, thank you again.
Thank you.
And do you have any wrap-up?
Just real quick, I want to thank our sponsors again, Atlantic City Electric, Ocean First Bank, Stockton for being such a great host venue, Atlantic Care, TD Bank, and Town Square Media, some upcoming events. So we're starting a policy series. We all talked about influence and advocacy. Our first policy event is with Senator Testa on January 7th. Our second one is with Senator Palestina, Assemblywoman Swift, and Assemblyman Guardian on the 11th. You'll be hearing a lot more about our events for advocacy and policy going forward. But again, thank you to our amazing panel. Thank you for everybody coming today. Have a happy holidays. Enjoy this holiday season. Take care, everyone.